Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Monster Hunter World Iceborne live stream. Today we're on the Xbox, and we don't have anything in particular that we have to do, so you guys can decide what we work on. You can post quests, I'll join you, and in the meantime I'll get some more practice in with my weapons, and maybe I'll even work on a build or two, because I still have a few endgame Elatrion builds I'd like to work on before he releases. Hopefully these are useful. Hopefully when he shows up, he doesn't have like some really specific niche builds that you have to put together, but we'll have to see. We don't know much about him yet. He will be out at the beginning of July. We don't really know the exact date. Hopefully July, I don't know, like 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, but you know it's going to be like July 15th. Right, because that's how it goes. Early July means July 15th. Alright, we are live. Let's see what you guys are doing. We got plenty of room in the session if you want to join. I noticed the sessions don't fill up as much anymore. It's harder to get a group going. Well, what that also means, though, is if you're really new to the game, this is a perfect opportunity for you to jump in and get some help. Because if you jump in and you're working on the story mode or something like that, there's a very good chance that somebody, including me, will jump into your story mode mission and help you complete it. If you need to grind optionals or if you need to do other things as well. How is it going, everyone? This is a Let's Chat stream, which means that you can talk about whatever subject you want to talk about, and I will respond. That's right. I'm going to mostly be focusing on the comment section. What is this build? Well, this build has a lot of defense. Divine Blessing, Stun, Resist, Fire Resist, Health Boost. Max, he says, thanks, man. Are you hyped for the Demon Souls remake? I am and I'm not. I've talked about this a few times. People have asked us several times. So for me, I've never played Demon Souls, so I'll buy it and I'll play it. But I'm not actually that hyped for it. I really don't want game studios to become Hollywood and to do nothing but pump out remakes. I really want video game studios to focus a lot of their money and their attention on making brand new content that's never been seen before, taking risks and innovating, something that, funny enough, Monster Hunter doesn't do a lot of either. So we're waiting on Elatrion to come out. They've already made Elatrion. Elatrion was in another game. We're not getting a brand new monster. We're getting a remake in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Elatrion is effectively, he's a remake. And he could be a really great remake. And there's probably plenty of people who have never fought him before. But then there's also plenty of people who have fought him before, and that's the problem. So video game companies, they don't like to take risks on new content. They like to just do remakes, and they've kind of figured out that people will pay for remakes. So on the one hand, I'm interested in it. On the second hand, I don't like the direction. I don't like that there's so many remakes being made. I think that is a bad sign for the future of video gaming. It is not a good sign. So that's my feelings on it. People are super hyped for it, and you haven't even played it yet. So don't get too hyped too fast. Left my Xbox on the other place with the quarantine. I play on PC now. Demon Souls, more like Steamon Souls. You got 'em. Why is Nintendo Switch Online so damn cheap? Because it's also low quality. I'd be able to play with my little bro. You know what else is cheap, Mayo? Not paying at all to be online, which is what PlayStation used to be, and it's what the PC is right now. You don't pay anything to play online on your PC. Collision says, what's up, TGC? You managed to get any sleep? I did get a little bit of sleep, and I have been working. I just finished commentary and handed it off to my editor for Top 10 Things You Didn't Know, Monster Hunter World. I used to have a series of that going, and we've taken like a full 2-month break from making serious videos on this channel. Well, I just handed him the commentary for the first serious video. It'll be a continuing video, like number 7, I think, in the series of Things You Didn't Know. Anyone counting the laps he's ran? I've ran like 20 of them. Remember, though, TCG, this sold something like 14 million copies, so there's a lot of people first time fighting Elatrion. Yeah, I agree with that. I do agree with that. I just wish that we were getting brand new monsters that were Iceborne monsters. We got Velkhana and Shar Ishvalda. They're kind of cool. That's like 2 monsters, basically. We got Namiel as well. Namiel feels terrible. I never enjoyed Namiel. Velkhana and Shar Ishvalda are a much better fight, in my opinion, than Namiel. And really, all 3 of them are just reskins. So I would like something new. Something new. And the veterans, Elatrion, it's not new to the veterans, so there's plenty of people who bought the old games, and they have already fought Elatrion. Alright, let's see if anyone posted anything.
I know you've been working hard out there.
Aha! You cannot join the quest until the leader has watched all the cutscenes. Sounds good. My final grades are going in today. I make it to the 10th. Nice. It's time for that summertime break, guys. People are going on break. Glad to hear it. Summertime breaks go away when you're an adult and you graduate, so enjoy them while you can. But also, if you want to get ahead, get a job during your summer break. Which you probably should if you want to be rich someday. You see, guys, when it comes to getting rich, some people just try harder. Not me. I took my summer breaks. That's why I'm so poor. Any love for the Charge Blade? Yeah, Charge Blade, I do like the Charge Blade. I'm getting a little practice in with the Switch Axe, which is a weapon I've been playing with a lot. I watched a speed run where the speedrunner really didn't care about getting the melee attacks in more than just charging up the blade and then spamming the discharge on the Clutch Claw attack. So I'm really curious to test that out a little more. TGC, I bet you didn't know that an investigation has 3 gold slots or more. You have an increased chance for crowns. Really? That's interesting. Hey TGC, have you been able to get around to finish the endgame builds? No, I have not. No, I have not. Can you help me on Divine Surge tomorrow? Divine Surge? I don't even know what Divine Surge is, so probably not. Mario's an immortal being. Woo! Publass. Alright, well, we're going to start this up. Cool Godzilla. Oh, what the heck? That doesn't look right. It looks like something broke there. I was going to get a job this summer, but Corona decided to come. Hey, that doesn't mean you can't get a job, man. There's plenty of places opening back up right now. And, you know, a lot of states are opening back up, and they probably badly need employees. If anything, now is a better time than before to have your resume finished and to be out there applying and getting your name out. I watched a video where people voted on which is the worst weapon, and the lance was the #1 worst weapon. Wow, imagine that. Did they skewer the guy who hosted the poll? Here, let's go ahead and join quest. Grr, I can't believe the poll would say that. The poll must be racist. Hey, look at that guy. He's 999 and 999, both master rank and hunter rank. Jeez Louise. Is World your favorite Monster Hunter, or do you play the other ones? I played Monster Hunter GU while we were waiting for Iceborne to come out, and honestly, I can see why people have nostalgia for it, but it is such an older game that I couldn't enjoy it because of the lower quality of life. So this is my favorite Monster Hunter. It's also the only other Monster Hunter I've played, so I don't have like a wide perspective. Let's go ahead and use soft soil. The poll was Rage Gaming. Hello from the UK. How's it going, Will? Let's go ahead and have the meat platter. Might sound crazy, but is America getting massively hacked right now? That's right, America's getting massively hacked. We're so massively hacked. Will says hello from the UK. How's the weather in the UK right now where you live? Is it vacation time for me? Can I go over there? JV says hello. How's it going, JV? Arson, so when is Elatreon coming out? Elatreon is coming out so hard and so fast. No, we don't actually know the date, Arson, unfortunately. All we know is early July. That's what they said, which probably means July 15th. Don't agree with my opinion? Then you are racist. I know. Racism is like a flail, a cudgel, and they're going to beat you with it. Lewis says, hey, TGC, which skills are must to maximize damage on heavy bowgun spread besides spread decorations? So with these shot damage on a bowgun, which would include pierce, it would include normal, it would include spread and more. Well, to increase the damage on those, really you want to go with the typical crit boost setup, which means you need crit boost, weakness exploit, and crit eye. Those are the basic skills. Of course, I think I was testing this out last time. You could probably run Max Might Secret and, what is it called? It's called Heroic Secret together on the spread ammo build and have Heroics proc, and then with Heroics proc fire to get even more damage, but that's more of a speedrunner kind of thing to do. You know, speedrunners, they like to activate heroics. For a regular player, I don't think you would need to do that. Jesus, like, silence is violence. It's not too bad, but it could always be better. Love the content you make, dude. Thank you very much, man. The UK. The UK. Man, I was watching the news. Will Burgess. Is it Burgess or Burgess? I was watching the news, and they have like a Black Lives Matter protest over there too. Left the quest. What the hell? I think we're having some connection problems. They're having their Black Lives Matter. You know, even though it didn't even happen in the UK, it happened over here in the US. They're having their riots over there too, and they were spray painting and defacing the what's his name? Why did I just Churchill? They're defacing the Churchill statues. Why would they do that? It's so friggin' terrible. The guy who, didn't want to do appeasement with Hitler. He's like, we have to stop Hitler. He's the guy who stops the final solution, superior Aryan race guy. They still don't like him. It is so irrational and so stupid. It really does not look like the movement makes any sense to me. It's so frustrating. Defacing Churchill statues is so pathetic, dude. I saw it was like they're spray painting. Churchill was a racist. It's so crazy. And I don't understand because I feel like the average voter, which is, I've said this before, you don't need to get the sympathies of people who already agree with you on like the left or the right. You need to get the sympathies of the average swing voter, because that's where all political power is really coming from, is from the average swing voter. And instead, they're like defacing Churchill statues over there. What are they thinking? They're just bad at this. I hate Churchill. Although people will say in the movement, they'll say that's not us. Like, we don't claim them, or oh, those are secretive undercover anarchists and blah. You know, they always claim it's somebody else. But then there's all this footage of who's doing it. There's tons of footage, guys. Tons of video footage out there. You can't hide who's doing it because everything gets recorded these days. Spec says, I don't even understand the discretion of Winston Churchill is a desecration of Winston Churchill is a disgrace. It is absolutely is a disgrace. I can't believe it. At the moment, there is no movement. It's two groups, one who wants to protest and the others who are mindless thugs. Anyone think Monster Hunter World will get a cross-save feature? Probably not. The movement is simple, really. I don't get how defacing heroes solves racism. So you think about Elytrian armor sets and weapons. No, I don't really think about it too much. What we could do, we could go analyze the weapon and armor sets from previous games, but who knows what we'll actually get. Well, it says BLM is the scum of human lack of critical thinking. Well, you know, it's probably a big mix of things, but they probably do have some members in there that are kind of scummy. Rip me. How is the BLM the scum of the humans? The Fire Dragon, I think about them a lot. Here, let's go ahead and beat upon Garuga. Let's go find him. But who here really thinks that defacing or desecrating Winston Churchill statues is a clever move for the movement? It just doesn't make any sense. Whose idea was that? To me, it goes along the lines of blocking the highway, right? It's a great way to get attention. It's a great way to get attention. It's also a great way to get everyone to dislike you. You know, if you got people already going, yeah, I totally support you. I agree with you. I'm on your team. If you already got people doing that, what is the advantage of then ruining their day by blocking the highway? You're going to ruin so much. Maybe they miss out on something really important, actually. You don't know. They could be driving to their child being born. They could be driving to one of their parents passing away. They could be driving to a job interview. They could be driving to something even unimportant, like a concert that they really wanted to go to. But you made them miss it because of your political argument. And now they're going to have not necessarily, oh man, now that I missed this thing that was important to me, now I really want to vote on your behalf. You know, it's just not how people work. If you want people to be your friend, you gotta give them what they want. You gotta give them honey. You know what I mean? You gotta attract bees to honey. You're gonna beat up on them. They're gonna be like, wow, I really don't like this. Yeah, just do what we tell you, and then we'll stop. Some people don't. Some people don't go, okay, we'll just give you what you want. We'll pander to you. Some people go, nah, that's not how it's done. That's coercion. What is going on here? How is it not? That's so weird. Will you be making more pre-Elytrian weapon build videos? There is a fair chance I'll continue making them. Shadden, is it Shadden? Shadden Stolt says they defaced Winston Churchill, so I like them more now. ES says, what? Sphex says attack Nigel Farage. He's the racist in the UK who only likes whites. They defaced Winston Churchill, so I like them more. Will you be making more pre-Elytra weapon builds? Bazooks versus Devil Joe still stands as one of the best turf wars. Where are we? What the hell? Did he flash us and it didn't work? Oh my god, please sneak past this guy. Okay, that was terrible. Let's keep going this way. If they gave out free food, I'd be down. When's the Smash Bros stream? We never did a Smash Brothers stream, did we? I haven't played Smash Brothers in a very long time. Alright, here he is right here, Garuga. Bees like nectar, not honey. Then make honey pro tip. What? True. That is true. But I think you understood what I was saying, though. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. Like, from a political strategy point of view, you're actually going to lose a large chunk of people who are like, you know what? I don't want any of this nonsense. Honey is technically the bees' doo-doo. Well, bees actually do eat it, though. Yeah, bees, the reason they store nectar is for the winter, right? What the hell? Did we bounce off this guy? Try and slash this guy up. Dude! Is just me or TGC sound excited today? That's right, I'm excited to be fighting this big stinky poopy. Super excited. Oh man, let's go ahead and slice him. I wanted it! Oh, darn it. He mounted? Yeah, he mounted. Cool. Divine Surge is Tempered Cure and Namiel and I play on PS4. What? You know, I always thought Elytron always hate, well, everything and goes as far as to the bottom of the ocean. So why does he appear now? I don't know, man. Why does he appear now? So what would you guys like to talk about? I feel like the game loop of Monster Hunter is so good in concept it ruins other games, but then you play Monster Hunter and wish it was better. The game is a curse. I know, right? Know exactly what you were talking about here. You play it and you go, man, this could be so much better so quickly. I really feel like one place they could improve is changing the loot so that you're actually proud of your loot. Right now, you really don't care. You just build whatever's strongest. And that's it. And then you just, actually nowadays, you hide it with the skin too. You're like, I don't even like the way it looks. It's just here to do numbers for me. You know what I mean? So I feel like they've got a serious problem with the design on their rewards. I keep arguing with a friend if Blast Bow is actually a meme or not. Speedrunners see no point running some defense skills because it only slightly outperforms element. What? Is race a social construct? And if so, why have humans chosen to group ourselves off by the color of our skin? It's not a construct. It's definitely not. Just like the whole gender thing is like, well, there are sexes that exist, right? And people like to say, well, women choose to wear dresses and have pink dolls because that's the social construct. I don't actually think that's true. I think they choose dolls because it's more like instinct is what I think it is. I think it's actually still based in biology. Similarly, in race, there's probably something going on where it's like people who have the same genetic markers as you probably have a built-in biological desire to protect people who have a similar biological buildup as you, and then probably a natural paranoia toward people who don't have the same genetic markers. Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, it's something you see virtually throughout all histories. Racism's like not exclusive to any certain time period. It's existed for a while, right? Go ahead and grab it. Oh. So, probably there is a biological explanation for it. You could say it's probably closely related to attraction, if you think about it. So why do you find one girl attractive and another girl unattractive? What caused that? And really what's going on is your brain's kind of judging the way she looks and deciding these genetic markers are good for making children and these genetic markers are bad for making children. And that's the basis of attraction. That's how attraction works, right? And if you think about it, if your brain's finding certain genetic markers unattractive, then anyone who shares those genetic markers, you're probably also going to find them unattractive. So if I had to guess, racism probably is rooted in biology, and it probably has something very closely related to attraction or survivability, like protecting, I don't know, the genes of people with similar genes. I don't know. Do some of y'all hate Elytron in the older games? I fought him. I thought that he was just okay. He wasn't really that special. I thought he was just a fight, you know? I got done with him real fast. I think I beat him on my second try or something like that. And I was like, all right, I'm done. People are different. I'm in the session now. Are you going to play Cyberpunk? Yeah, that's a question I get a lot. I don't have a big interest in Cyberpunk, but I might play it just for the fun, just to see what it's like. Am I quieter? I can turn up my volume. Hold on. Actually, one thing I can do is I can rebalance the volume. Give me a moment. So this can come down, and this can go up slightly. Here, how does that sound? Is that better? Let's come over here. Miguel says it's not genetic. This has been found among animals. It's whatever the being accepts as their norm or clan, then outsiders are automatically categorized differently, and you will be more aggressive. Well, Miguel, it's probably a little bit of both, though. Think about it. Like, if you met a group that looked really different from you, probably there is a biological basis for an argument that says you reject things that are too different from you. Like, for example, how about this, Miguel? When you have, like, a plate of food and you get a little kid and the kid doesn't like the food touching, like, what the heck is that? What's causing that? That's crazy, you know? And you're like, you're telling the kid it doesn't matter. It's all food. But the kid doesn't want the food touching. It's probably very closely related to that. The kid's like, no, this shouldn't touch. You know, it's probably very closely related to that. But then you're also talking about this other concept of maybe like societal values, principles, ideologies. And you're saying when two competing ideologies kind of try to come together into one society, you end up with conflict in that society. And yeah, that would be more like a higher level sort of cultural, social construct kind of thing. You know what I mean? But yeah, but his question was, do you think I think his question, you could rephrase it as, do you think it's only this concept of the social construct being a problem for race? And I was saying, no, there probably is actually some biological, there probably is some biological sort of mechanisms being triggered here because, like I was saying, you can find one girl attractive and another girl unattractive. Or with the little kid doesn't like the food touching. What the hell is that? Why would a kid care if a food's it doesn't matter. But it happens, and nobody taught the kid to be that way, and nobody taught you to look at two different girls and find one sexier than the other. So your brain's discriminating very naturally. It's saying, I like those genes and not those genes. See, that's what your brain's doing very naturally. All right, let's see what else we're going to join. Arsa says, I like to keep my food segregated. Oh my god. Racists! TGC and his subs will populate Disappointment Island and make our own society. Populate Disappointment Island. I remember I couldn't stand broccoli touching my food. Now I eat broccoli with everything. Well, yeah, and you actually had to learn to do that. But the thing is, you were born not wanting the broccoli to touch. And what is all that about? Why would that bother you? And it's just one of those weird human traits, and you're just born that way. And it probably has something to do with the part, the thing in your brain that says, you should be concerned about, I don't know, just outside forces coming in and potentially being dangerous. I did forget about the basic instincts ingrained, like someone being prone to avoid cats or someone against dogs. People had a similar instinct in the past when whites met blacks for the first time. Yeah, actually, that's an interesting idea. There was a point where white Indians met white Europeans for the first time. There was a point where we met Latinos for the first time, or there was a first time for all of those things, and it must have been so shocking. You know what I mean? We just kind of grew up at a point where video exists and cameras exist and history's already been done. There was a point where all of it was brand new. Must have been so alien almost. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell? You look so different from me. What the? You know what I mean? It must have been really crazy back then to meet a new ethnicity for the first time, is what I'm saying. Back when you couldn't travel very much. Like, even as cavemen. Have you made build videos? Negative. I've made 0 build videos. I really want to know what happens. Safajiva will drop the supernova on Elytron. TC, the island is real. It's New Zealand. It's near New Zealand. Disappointment Island? Hey, I heard New Zealand. I heard that, like, millionaires and billionaires are moving into New Zealand as a kind of, like, they move there to kind of be away from the rest of the world. So interesting. Collision says, genetic knowledge about cross-check contamination. Yeah, something like that, actually. Genetic knowledge about cross-check contamination. So contamination is actually something that we biologically are afraid of without having to be taught to be afraid of it. Why are you afraid of spiders and snakes without being bitten by a spider and a snake? It's just kind of built in biologically. Well, also, we naturally fear dirt. And some people fear dirt more than others, like dirt, germs, contamination. And probably, if I had to guess, people who get more concerned about racism than others are probably people who have that sort of sensitivity, you know what I mean? They don't want their food touching, they don't want to mix with other people, that kind of stuff. So, his question was, do you think that racism is just based purely on, maybe just like social constructs, right? Is it just a social construct? I'm saying, no, there's probably a little bit of a biological explanation for it as well. This is still what I fall asleep to. Actually, that's a good point you made. Which build are you working on? Well, right now, we're just using the switch axe a little more, but I was thinking about messing with the charge blade soon. Lion the Fire Dragon says, which one to like about Elytron design, it a old design or be new? I like the new design. Reckless says, there we go. We'll all get rich and buy the island. That's right. Let's all get Pokey rich. We'll make a new island called Pokemon Island. Pokey Rich Island. Looks much more slick, so to say. Good old Elytron. Cold water or warm water? Actually, cold water, just like everyone else. Did you know most humans prefer strongly cold water? And scientists also believe that there's a biological reason for this. They believe that humans would drink frozen water because frozen water was much less likely to have, guess what, contamination in it. So humans would actually die to contamination and all the time back then, because you would live to be like, did you guys know the average lifespan just a few hundred years ago was like 40, 30 years old? You did not live that long. And one of the ways you died is you drank dirty water. So it turned out that cold water, the germs couldn't live as well in cold water. And so humans developed a taste for cold water. So you ever wonder, why do I put ice cubes in my water? That's so weird. It's not like the inside of my body's not... Oh, nice, we dodged it. The inside of my body's not cold, but I drink cold water. Well, there's an actual explanation for it. Your body's desiring cold water likely because your ancestors drank cold water and lived because of it. They lived because they preferred cold water to hot water, and it turned out the cold water was safer to drink. Really weird, huh? Oh my god, we just got thrown off. Cats hiss because it emulates the hiss of snakes, which most creatures are wary of. Grab him by the tail. Doot, 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 doot. What? How did that hit me? Let's get the Astera jerky ready. Cold water hurts my teeth. Yeah, actually, it used to hurt my teeth when I was younger, but not anymore. Maybe it's just something that changes as you get older. Yeah, it used to hurt my teeth when I was younger. I remember that. I would use my tongue to block the cold water from hitting my teeth. GE kills viewers with contaminated builds. That's right. What the hell? Let's smack this guy a little bit, huh? I didn't know that. I just thought it tasted good, but though it proves my stepmom might have been crazy about her teeth. What? That's gonna be a roar. Cats only meow to communicate with human cats. Communicate to the other cat with body language. What? What are we talking about? I heard cold water is better for showers because it wakes you up as opposed to warm water, which relaxes your muscle. I'm on the wrong side of him. Is my phone going off? Let's go ahead and take this off real fast. I'm off it. Okay. Probably I shouldn't have been looking at the phone. You're a gentleman and a scholar. Here, let's go ahead. Can we eat? No, we can't eat. We've already eaten. Let's have a max potion. Ooh, can we get some more stamina? Let's get some more stamina. I heard cold water is better for showers because it wakes you up. Evolution of domestication can be most fascinating. What else would you guys like to talk about? Let's talk about some fun stuff. How about, how big is your stinky poopies? So big? Let's grab onto this guy. Is he softened? I'm off it. Soften the tail. I can't do cold showers. I can do like kind of cold showers, you know what I mean? I don't think anyone truly takes quote cold showers, you know what I mean? I think that's probably pretty rare. But what I can do is I can turn the water's coldness up to the point where it's just kind of like room temperature, or maybe even a little lower than that, so it's a little chilly, but not that chilly, because it's like, I don't think anyone enjoys cold water being poured on their body. That's why they had the whole, the ice challenge or whatever that was. If I work out, should I bathe in cold or hot water? You should bathe in freezing cold ice water. Only then will you be super buff. At the very least, a minute of cold water at the end of your shower so you close up them pores. What? What are you guys talking about? Government checks. Checks and balances or money from the government? Where's my Trump bucks? I need more Trump bucks. Talk about the normalization of fetishes. Interesting, yeah. Fetishes, huh? I guess it is kind of a new thing, isn't it? Because pornography was just kind of like this secret thing. You didn't really talk too much about it in the 90s. It was still considered really immoral, and most people, if you talked about like pornography, it was like super taboo. And now it's like part of our culture, basically. Probably, I don't know. What do you guys think? That's a good thing or a bad thing? I guess you could say we're like hypersexual now. Or are we just more honest? I don't know. It's weird. Is masturbation helpful or harmful for adolescent development? I don't think it's harmful. I think that probably what you see in the wild is most animals will like figure out masturbation too. I mean, I don't know. Humans are like uniquely ashamed of sex, but also I feel that there's a few things going on when it comes to like sex shame. I think first of all, there is once again probably a biological explanation for the shame. And the biological explanation would be, well, sex is really, if you think about it, in the past, before birth control, sex was a really dangerous thing. Because if you had sex and you did it wrong, you're going to get somebody pregnant. And then if some girl gets pregnant at the wrong time, you know, she's really vulnerable. The child is vulnerable. You could get somebody angry by having sex at the wrong time, right? So if you get some other guys, let's just say you get some other guy's girl pregnant, you're in trouble, man. You know what I mean? Like you had to have control over your sexuality to be successful as a human in the past. These days is almost like, yeah, anything goes, just do whatever you want. We got birth control, we got contraceptives. Also, if you think about it, really those, amongst other things, those have almost certainly contributed to the fact that nobody has a family anymore. Well, we have effective birth control now, which was, man, I'm playing like garbage, dude. I'm like claw attacking this guy because my weapon's not charged. Well, anyways, back then sex was dangerous because you could actually get, you're actually going to get somebody pregnant by accident. And you probably had to have some self-control, and all the religions, all the successful religions would try to force you to have some self-control. And now we don't have to have that quite so much. I mean, you do actually, in my opinion, because it's not like birth control is 100% effective, but also I don't think that it's necessarily true that you can just have meaningless sex with everyone for like 10 years of your life and then suddenly convert, swap over to monogamy and be like, yeah, I'm happy with monogamy. I don't think it really works that way. I think that by the time you're married, you're like, I don't want to say ruined, but yeah, kind of like ruined almost. Oh, and he still got me. Ancient Rome, everyone was freaking everyone, though. That's not true, Kevin. So ancient Rome, the Romans were actually very conservative, especially the early stages of Rome. Did you know that? But you didn't know that. The Romans were actually extremely conservative. It was part of their culture to be conservative. One of the things that they believed in was that women were meant to stay home and work, and the men were meant to go out and farm and go to war. And so a good wife was very conservative, and a Roman man was ready to die for his country. And it was near the fall of Rome that all of the hot baths or whatever, and the Colosseum, where you would just sit around and watch people kill each other. It's near the fall of Rome that they get into that kind of stuff. So conservatism, a lot of conservatism is about having values and self-control and limiting how much hedonism you get into. And so conservative values is not a new subject of politics today. It's actually been around. It's been an issue for a very long time. And I think you could say it's true that when you want to be productive, and when you want to save up money, and when you want to build, and when you want to just have control of the world around you, you kind of have to have these, quote, conservative values. So the early Romans were extremely conservative, actually. They were warlike and they were conservative. And then the fall of Rome comes around when, you get, actually what happens in Rome is a bunch of immigration actually occurs. And the people who immigrate into Rome aren't treated well, but they're not really loyal to Rome. And they start to get invaded by their own group. So imagine the pre-Germans, they kind of get, they move in. The Romans say, okay, you can move in here, but you're not going to be Roman citizens. And then what happens is these same groups start invading Rome, and they don't actually fight them. The Romans, they're split between the West and the East, and they're not helping each other. The West and East is no longer helping each other. And the people don't want to stop the invaders because the invaders are their own people. So they're like, yeah, actually, we would love it if you'd come in and invade because we don't like the Romans anyways. I know they feed me now and give me my water. Other than that, I don't understand her. She'll paw at my drawer. Oh, you're talking about animals. Make smart people have kids again. Thanks for education. I did not know. Symphonia says, I can't believe ancient Rome came up in a different chat time. James B says, yo, liked the TCC commentary yesterday so much that I thought I'd come through. How's it going, James B? Welcome to my main channel. We're playing Monster Hunter today. We used to get an audience of like 400 to 500 people, but Monster Hunter is crashing fast for viewers, I'd have to say. And this is true on Twitch as well. But hopefully when Elytrium comes back, the viewership kind of bounces back. But it is low lately, man. And it's making me think that maybe it is time to start considering other games. But, yeah, it is low lately, isn't it? The last stream we had, I think we topped out at about 250. We're 40 minutes in, so we're getting closer to the peak for this today's live stream as well. And we're only at like 200, so people have really stopped playing this game, in my opinion. Collision says, geologists have compiled seismic data from the last 30 years and found a large unidentified mass under the surface beneath Hawaii. Obviously, this proves Cthulhu exists. Is it Cthulhu? Truhulu? 5 hidden fates, please. How's it going, Subby? You guys want me to open some Pokemon cards in the Monster Hunter stream? I'll go plug up the camera. I'll sell a vintage pack and open it here in the live stream. Bread is overrated. I agree with this. I've never really liked bread so much. Wait. I might take a nap. Keep streaming on though. You're gonna love it, James. How can you play Monster Hunter for so many hours? I was kind of done with the base game after 100 hours. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it became kind of like a lifestyle for me. Playing Monster Hunter did. You'd get on, you'd play the game, and it's just kind of like a routine. And it's not such a bad routine. It's kind of enjoyable. But also there was also constantly there was new content, and I had 3 characters to work on. So there was always something for me to work on. But the game is so slow right now. It's crazy. And I think we're looking at a game that's at the end of its product cycle, and I don't really know what I'm going to play next because there's nothing that really replaces there's nothing that really replaces Monster Hunter. There's Elden Ring, which I'm pretty sure is delayed. They haven't announced it, but I'm pretty confident they're going to delay it. And if they're not going to delay it, then maybe Elden Ring will come out and I'll just jump to that. I don't know. It's so weird. Hi, GE. I haven't watched you in a while. Yeah, I haven't played Monster Hunter World in a long time since there are Valorants and stuff's coming out. You mean variants? Joshin says, I haven't played Monster Hunter World for a week now. Is it good to branch out to... It's good to branch out the games even if a little... Hey, mister. Hey, mister. Miguel says, did you know the Game of Thrones is mostly based off of European war called the War of the Three Henrys? No, I did not know that. Brandon Dodry says, also think 2 hours is a short stream as well. Oh, you think that 2 hours is too short? Lonnie says, gee, he still has 2 mortgages to pay. So here's what's going on, Lonnie. We have 3 mortgages, 2 extra houses. One is my wife's parents' old house, and then my wife's parents' new house. So we've purchased them a new house, and they have their old house, and then we have our small condo. We pay all 3 mortgages, but they are paying rent on their new house now, and we are selling the old house, and we're going to use the money from the old house to pay for the new one. So it should be okay in the end. We're through the toughest part of it all. So once it sells, it's supposed to sell actually in 2 days. So we're already in contract to sell it. And after that is over, assuming it ends and everything goes well, everything goes smoothly, we will be able to finally take a nice sigh of relief. But it has to sell first. So it's contracted to sell in 2 days, but apparently things can still go wrong. So we're holding our breath. Elden Ring confirmed to come out in 2021 a few days ago. They had internal delays along with pandemic slowing them down. All right, guys, so no Elden Ring, which means I don't know what we're going to play next. We could play some Pokemon Sword and Shield. We'll probably play the DLC, but that's probably never going to be my main game. Pokemon, I like it. It's not adult enough for me, in my opinion. So we will need a new game, I think, because I don't know how well they're going to support Monster Hunter. Doryman says, have you heard about the game Godfall? Is a slasher melee looter game? No, I have not. Do you think Monster Hunter World is running out of content? Monster Hunter World started running out of content after the release of, what's his name? Ray Zhang. After the release of regular Ray Zhang, the game started to slow down. And it has been that way ever since. They never have enough content. People finish the new content almost instantly. That's the problem. So Monster Hunter will release a new piece of content and people will be done with it within a few hours. They will be done with it. Because honestly, it's about a few hours of content that they release every time. And so Monster Hunter has had a content drought for a very long time. And it is time to, with Elden Ring being delayed, it's time to start considering probably a backup game, a second game. Right now, for those of you who are big fans of my channel, we have Pokemon Emerald being played at nights, and Pokemon Sword and Shield is going to have a DLC out that we are going to play through. But those are more like just side projects that I'm doing for fun. We need like a main game probably. So I'll keep my eyes open for a brand new main game, but yeah, I don't know. I think that pretty much the viewers and the viewers on Twitch have spoken. I think they're tired a little bit of Monster Hunter. Miguel says maybe you switch to a healthy combination of multiple games. I'm not really like that. I like to focus on one game at a time and just kind of go deep on that. Doom says, GE, do you have any tips on getting a thicker skin or being less sensitive? I could really use the advice. Gosh, that's actually a really tough one. That's a subject of a lot of interest for me as well, because I have to deal with that all the time. When you're sort of, in a sense, kind of a public figure, you get a lot of criticism, and you get people who they will say, "Oh, we're just trying to give you constructive criticism." But I know people who give me constructive criticism. That's the funny thing. There are people in my life who give me constructive criticism for improving my channel, and I'm really thankful to have them giving me tips and helping me. And then there are other people who actually you can tell they just kind of hate you, and they just say anything they can to bring you down. And then they say, "Oh, well, you don't listen to constructive criticism." It's like, no, actually, you're a troll. I'm almost certain that you are, because I have people who do actually want to see my channel improve. You want to see my channel fail, and you're angry at me. Those are you hate me almost, right? You don't like me. So I have to deal with something that the thing is it's not too hard for me though, because I grew up in a large family of 11 kids, and I was an oldest brother, and there was an enormous amount of fighting and anger and trolling and just savagery as children. So a lot of the things that I experienced as a YouTuber, I feel well equipped to handle because of my childhood. My childhood has so much conflict in it that the stuff that happens on YouTube, it's almost like this. I think a lot of it's bullying, and the intent of it is just to hurt the person who you're bullying. They don't realize I'm pretty well built for bullying. So it's like, you watch out, I'll come after you too. You don't know it. It's just something, I don't know. It's almost something you just have to, it's almost like something you have to let hurt you for a while. And then you kind of grow numb to it after a while. You really do. But before you reach that point, you go through a lot of pain. And the best thing to do is have a strong sense of identity, I suppose. That's the most important thing, because I feel like the worst outcome of somebody trying to go after you is the potential loss of your own identity. I think that's probably what you should be most concerned about. But when it comes to somebody attacking, like, let's say, an insecurity or something like that, if you just have a strong sense of identity, it's very hard for them to do that, actually. And just be aware of what's going on. If they're coming after you, kind of ask yourself, does this person actually want what's best for me? And if the answer is no, you just kind of have to learn to sort of ignore it, really, and not care. Because that's usually what, I don't know if it's so much that a person is more sensitive than another person. I think most people are sensitive, whether they reveal it or not. I think most people are sensitive. But it's actually your inability to ignore it that is more of a danger for you, because some people will become obsessed with what people are saying about them or with people's perception of them. And that's not a problem for me, because I actually don't care too much. And this is I suppose it's a good thing, because it lets me say what I want to say, and it lets me think what I want to think. And again, I already experienced much of the pain of bullying, much of the pain of anger, and really contempt is what a lot of it is. It's contempt. Somebody who sees you and decides, hey, I don't like you for one reason or another. Now I'm just going to try and hurt you with my words. But they're just words, man. They are just words. And if you want to know what gives you a sense of security, it's usually not. It doesn't have to be what people are saying about you. It can be your own accomplishments. And so, really, this is almost like a topic of tenacity. How tenacious are you? How much conflict can you have right in your face and not flinch from it, and not feel diminished by it, and not feel like, all right, now I'm going to go home and beat my wife over this. You know what I mean? Take it out on my children, right? Because I think often when you've been wronged psychologically, the next step is you go and you take it out on somebody else. The psychological damage resurfaces essentially, and you just kind of spit it out onto somebody else. But it's not. You don't just wake up one day and you're good at handling trolls. You're good at handling angry, contemptuous people who hate you and would like to see you fail. They'd like to damage you and damage your channel and damage your identity and self-esteem. You don't just wake up good at it. If you want to know about getting a thicker skin, the best thing you can do is go be in a bunch of conflicts right now, because that's the only way. It's kind of like building up an immunity to it. Well, how do you get an immunity to a cold or to some kind of disease or whatever? Well, the only way to build an immunity to it is to go get infected by it. You need to go get infected by it, but just be aware, be aware of all the side effects of it, and don't let the behavior surface and damage the people around you. And if you're feeling bad, if you're feeling upset, just talk to somebody about it. You can even talk to yourself about it. You can just get out a paper and pen And you can write to yourself about how you feel and why you think you feel that way and who wronged you and how you'd like to deal with it. But again, if you want to talk about maybe like long range strategies for not ever feeling bad, go accomplish a lot, because your accomplishments, as it turns out, people's words, often they talk angry about you because they themselves do not have a lot of accomplishments. So one of my beliefs about the way people complain and the way people hate each other, especially this, I learned this when I was working when I was younger. I learned that as an employee, employees complain about their managers, and their managers is this person of, he's a person higher up in the hierarchy, he's a person of power, he's a person of wealth, he has more money than you, he has respect. And you look at him and you're not him, and you get angry at him, and what you do is you talk trash about him. You criticize your manager more than anyone. You criticize your manager, you feel threatened by him, you don't like him, he's more orderly than you. Generally, managers are harder workers than the worker too, by the way. So the person at the bottom of the chain, usually they're the least effective worker, and a manager is one of the most effective workers. So everything about him is threatening, and you can't do anything about that because you're not capable of changing yourself. You're weak. And so often what you do is you use your words. You use your words to strike out at the manager and to try and diminish him in your mind and enlarge in yourself in your own mind. If you could just diminish him, then he would be on your level, and then you would not feel threatened by him so much. So I understand all of these maybe like psychological concepts really well. I always have, because of my childhood, and maybe it's because it's something that I excel at, trying to understand these kind of things. And so I don't really care about people's words. I care about my own accomplishments, and I try not to let toxicity come out of me in negative ways, unproductive ways, because the real trophy in life is not whether or not the guy on the internet or your angry in-laws or whatever it is. The real trophies in life are not coming down to what people say about you. Very often they will say something angry to diminish you just so that they themselves can feel better. So do not rely on other people's words to make you feel good. Rely on your own accomplishments to make you feel good, and then go out there and accomplish a lot. And you will never have to worry about what people say. So having a thick skin, it's funny, thick skin is like this sort of symbolic language that kind of describes an inner sort of turmoil about your self-esteem and your identity. But when you actually break it down into more psychological concepts, you can see a lot of it has to do with, how do I fit? What is my social status? Where am I in the hierarchy? How do I approve of myself? And how can I feel better about myself and not be hurt when people are trying to hurt me? Well, you're going to be hurt. They're going to try and hurt you, but there's many ways to cope with it and many ways to pretty much understand better what's going on. And all of these things help you become sort of like immune to it and way more functional. And really you can, when you recognize that somebody's trying to basically destroy or diminish you, you can almost feel pity for them, because you can almost guess, wow, this must not be a person who is happy with themselves. Which is usually the case, by the way. When you find somebody who is very angry at you for almost no reason, like somebody who doesn't know you very well maybe, and they're just like this bitter, terrible person, you find out typically later that, especially if you ever get to meet them, you typically find out that they're not very good in their relationships. Surprise, surprise. People who bring other people down typically do not have great relationships. You know what I mean? Especially people who bring you down to make themselves feel better. They typically do not have great relationships. People like that typically do not have a lot of accomplishments. So look at your bank account and look at what you have in life and look at your own relationships and just focus on your own accomplishments, and in a much shorter way, don't worry about it. What if that was my whole response to your question? Don't worry about it. I'd be about as useful as most people's moms and dads. He's making fun of me. Don't worry about it. You're great. Doom says, thank you, GE and 4chaner. Right now, I'm the one who's beating myself more than anyone, but I will follow your words. Thank you. Do you think it's easier for men to have thick skin over women? I actually do. There's this concept of women being the, what do they call it, the weaker sex or whatever. And I think that women have more delicate feelings than men. Not all women, but I do think that women tend to have more delicate feelings than men, and men tend to be able to shut their feelings off and go die in a war. And that's just one of the differences between men and women that we want to try and pretend is not there, but it is. But you have to also be open-minded about it, because there will be men who are more sensitive than women, and there will be women who are less sensitive than men. So it's more like there's sort of probably like a bell curve distribution of your level of sensitivity, and you fall on it somewhere. But yeah, I mean, your question is basically, do I believe there's differences between men and women emotionally? And I think definitely there is. That's where all the stereotypes come from. There's all these stereotypes. Oh, my husband, he doesn't care about how I feel. Oh, he doesn't want to talk about his feelings. Oh, my husband, men don't cry. All that other stuff, you know what I mean? But you have to be careful with that too, because men have emotional needs, not just physical needs. That's one of the stereotypes, by the way, that I think is really wrong. That men they just want sex. I think men have a lot of emotional needs. I think men actually look at women sort of like the way they look at their mother, and they get a sense of success from both how they get approval from their father, but also how they get approval from their mother, and how they get approval from their wives. So all three actually have a really important distinction. So if you were to ask, are women more sensitive than men? I would say probably on average, yes. But it's kind of an odd thing to talk about, because it's almost like you're saying, can men get through life without any of their emotional needs met? And I would say no. That's probably going to end up with you having a very unfulfilled, bitter life, and probably just less happy in general. So you have to understand, what do I want emotionally as a guy as well. And typically for men, it's going to be something like respect. You want your wife or your parents, your mom, to respect you. Like, wow, you're a respectable, powerful guy. You know what I mean? And that would make sense, once again, from a sort of biological perspective, because men are all trying to climb that hierarchy, that power structure, and be considered powerful and be considered the guy with the biggest wang. Arsenal says, my bank account is in critical danger and my relationships are in disrepair, but I don't try to put people down. You got to get out there and make those G's. Those are rookie numbers. It's funny because what you're talking about should have been common sense, but it's not. I feel like many people don't understand these concepts, me included. Well, and that's what's so interesting about human behavior is very often when you're having a problem with your behaviors and or your feelings, and your emotions and your habits, in your mind you'll be like, what am I doing wrong? What's wrong? Why am I so unhappy? And you don't have an answer to it, and you usually need to find a therapist to kind of explain things to you. And that's because the therapist often just knows something about human behavior that you don't. And you're stuck not being able to answer your own. You're like a car, and the therapist or the psychologist pops the hood on you and says, oh yeah, you have this is not working. And then if you were capable of doing that yourself, you would have already fixed it. So usually it's somebody who has something wrong and they're not skilled enough to fix it themselves. You often aren't even aware that something is wrong. That's the funniest part. So I think with psychology and with therapy and all that stuff, you can kind of sense that something's not right, but you don't really know what it is, and that's all part of it. If you simply knew what it was, half the problem would already be solved, because you would know what to focus on. You could set goals if you knew what the goals should be based on, but you rarely do know what the problem is. You just have a sense that something's wrong. Raging Bat says, did you know when a man cheats 8 times out of 10 is because he's not getting the emotional support he needs? It's the opposite for women 8 times out of 10. I don't know anything about that. I've actually never cheated. Hi Bonna says, back then a guy would be a piece of crap to me for no reason, and he knew nothing about it. Words of wisdom. We're glad to have GE because he always talks about his own opinions and always cheers us up. I come here for wisdom. Where do you go, TGC? That is a great question. There was a really good part of my life where I was working for Coca-Cola, and I did that for 2 years, and what I did was every day, your average work day, a short work day for Coca-Cola was 12 hours. It was a very particular kind of job. They told you you're going to have a lot of overtime. They warned you, actually, during the hiring process. They said if you won't work a minimum of 20 overtime hours a week, then we can't hire you. And I thought that was an exaggeration, or it was like for one particular month. Nope, it was for the whole year. And so a short day for Coca-Cola would be like 12 hours, and maybe an average day was closer to like 14 hours. And it was a lonely job. You didn't talk to anyone. You talked to very few people. And so what I did was I loaded up my iPod at the time with books on the internet, audiobooks. And I started out just listening to anything like Lord of the Rings, right? But I slowly moved on to like books on finance, psychology, and business. And for like 2 years, I just nonstop listened to books. But then I just kind of stopped. So some of the learning I did during that period was really fundamental to how I do things in life now. Because what I realized at the time was the more information you have, the more successful you are in life. And most things in life really aren't that hard to obtain in a physical sense. Most of the hardest things to obtain in life are all the secrets that make you successful. That's the really hard stuff to obtain. And reading a book can really get you the stuff you need. So if you guys aren't doing any reading or any learning anywhere, you're not going to really progress. You know what I mean? You can't really grow without learning new stuff. So it's really important you go learn new stuff. But you asked me, like, where do my thoughts today come from? Really just myself. I just sit around thinking about how I feel about subjects. And usually that's what a lot of people who get into these kind of things do. They just think about, well, what do I think is going to happen? What do I think works? What doesn't work? So a lot of it's just experience and me thinking at this point. But there was that fundamental part when I was working for Coca-Cola where I was doing a lot of learning and kind of understanding what it means to understand things. You know what I mean? So that's really important. So like, if I know something's not right in my behaviors, I know there's an explanation too. So I have to go out and think about, well, what's going on? How do I explain it? How do I change it? So all those things, that was a really important time when I was walking. You would walk for Coca-Cola all day long. It was a very physical job, and then you were learning at the same time. So if you guys are looking to get smarter, what I would say, find a good audiobook on whatever, business, finance, go for a 2-hour walk, go for an 8-hour walk. Have you ever done that? Go for an 8-hour walk with a book, and you will come back probably healthier.
Talk about the bum that criticized your Lance video. I want drama.
I want drama. Go for a long walk with an audiobook, and you will come back healthier and smarter. And it teaches you how to learn fast. You know what I'm saying? So here, I'm going to go ahead and join this.
Good to see you.
Join quest. Wrath of Thunder. What are we at in special assignments? My Rage for All. Can we join? Heck yeah, we're in. What's your secret on not getting burned out by a video game? How do you keep yourself interested? It's actually really easy for me to not be burned out because what are we really doing here? You and I are having a conversation, and I think actually what I enjoy more than most people is good conversation. And so we're playing Monster Hunter, but we're entertained by each other's conversation. So if you're talking about feeling burnt out, I could play this game the same way you could drive a taxi all day. How do taxi drivers not get burnt out from driving a taxi? Well, the truth is some days they probably do feel a little burnout, but usually they get to meet people and talk to people while they're driving them around. So especially for this job, I can play and especially focus on having a nice conversation. And someday it'll be a different game. It won't always be Monster Hunter World. One thing I knew about Monster Hunter World was that all video games have a, end of life cycle sort of date where you just stop playing. There was a day where I stopped playing Dark Souls. So I'm less excited to play this game than I used to be. I used to wake up and play this game for 12 hours a day. Now I wake up and I play maybe about 2 hours a day to 3 hours a day, depending on what I'm doing. It's a game where I know everything, it feels like, and there's not a lot of growing left, and there's not a lot of new content anymore. I'm done. I collected everything. There's some things I haven't collected, but I don't care about them. So I'm waiting for a Latreon because he's new. Okay, so I'm waiting for him. I'm helping you guys, but also we're having a conversation, and that's really fun. Fun fact, TGC was a therapist once. Philosophy should be taught as well. Dr. Economist, that's right. Psychology is a fun game. Oh my gosh. I find it funny how Safajiva embodies a lot of traits from Fatalis that were never demonstrated from Fatalis himself. Yo, DG, have you ever considered on playing Monster Hunter? What? It's sleepy time for now. This channel also has a shelf life. You're probably right. One day I may be done with YouTube. One day, but who knows? Actually, what I've thought about a lot is if I have a kid, or more, if I have 20 kids, with my 17 wives, when I have 20 kids, I could probably leave the channel as an inheritance to them, and they could take it over. And but that's something to think about in the future. Symphonia says, "You heard that, boys. Stream chat needs to be fresh." Well, it's chat time. You guys can ask me anything you want, and I'll try to respond well. Whoa, whoa. If you ain't going to talk about the bum, then use the bow at least, says A-Rod. Use the bow. You got it, A-Rod. Let's play around with the bow. I didn't even see the donation. Give me a second. Am I getting beat up? A-Rod did a $5 donation. Thank you very much, man. By the way, if you guys are wondering why the donation popped up on screen and there was a sound effect, is because he used the Streamlabs link in the description to make the donation. And the reason I'm always talking about the Streamlabs link is because when you make a donation through YouTube, using the YouTube Super Chat, YouTube actually takes 30% of that. Whereas when you use a Streamlabs donation, the entire donation goes to the person you're donating to. So don't just remember that here, remember that when you're watching somebody else you might enjoy. So if you ever make a donation to somebody, check to make sure they don't have a secondary or an alternative way to make that donation. Because I don't know why places like YouTube take so much, but they do. It's a donation. And you do it out of the goodness of your heart. And then YouTube says, you know what, I'll take 30% of that. What? That's crazy talk, man. That's really crazy that exists. GE, which weapon you barely use? The dual blades is my least used weapon. The bow is also one of my lesser used weapons too. I really like that every stream always has an interesting subject that teaches me something. Probably going to listen to audiobooks on walks now. It's a tough thing to get into, but if you ever do get into that, see, I had to do it because it was my job. I was getting paid to do it. If you ever do it, you will get smart so fast. It will be probably a transformational time in your life. Because it was for me, because I was getting real smart at that point in life. One of the most important ideas that kind of got drilled into my head during that time period was that you never get wealthy, never get wealthy by really just for working for another man for your whole life. You just work for him, you make him wealthy, but what you need to do is you need to work for yourself, or more importantly, you need to be, this was the main idea, you ready guys? You need to be building assets. That's the number one thing. You have to be building assets. So it's possible to get wealthy working for another man as long as you're getting paid really well for a very sort of rare skill. So if you want to be an employee rather than a business owner, you need to make sure that the skill that you have is very rare. So if you're going to go to school for a rare skill, not a common skill like, I learned history. It's like, you learned nothing. Because I can learn that for free on Netflix. I can learn that for $15 on Netflix. Talk about it because it's enjoyable to talk about. If you want to get rich, know a rare skill, not a common skill. You do not get paid well for common skills like putting a burger together, right? They all want to get like this huge minimum wage for a job that a machine's about to do any day now. It's already probably being done by a machine. Learn a rare skill, but the other thing is, for building assets, put a business together. You have to. It's not an option. You have to go start a business if you want to be wealthy. If you don't care about being wealthy too, that's another thing. Like, yeah, you could probably just live lower class, middle class lifestyle, maybe even just doing a very average job. That's great. But if you choose to be wealthy, if you want to be wealthy, you have to build assets. It's not an option. And they don't teach you that in school. In school, they teach you to be a good employee so that you can pay taxes and then pay the teachers stupid salary for the stupid subjects they teach you, the garbage you don't need to learn, because they don't teach you a lot of good stuff in school is what I've realized. So they teach you to be a good employee. They teach you a bunch of useless skills that everyone now knows, which means it's a common, if you learned it in school, guys, usually it's a common skill if you learned it in school. You know how you know it's common? Because everyone just learned it. Everyone's learning it right now. It's not rare. So you need to learn rare skills. Those are the ones that pay a lot. And very often, you don't even know what a rare skill is because the people who do know it would prefer that you don't know about it, so that it's not taught in school, okay? So you need a rare skill or you need a business, one or the other. If you don't have that, you will never be rich, and no amount of taxation is going to make you rich. Wow, if we can just get free healthcare, free education, it's never free. Somebody pays for it. You pay for it. You just pay for it differently. They talk about in the UK, we're so rich because we have free healthcare, we have free education, right? But you're also not a country where people generally leave the middle class. They're trapped in the middle class. If the middle class is even doing that well, if it's not shrinking as it is today, right? It shrinks. The middle class actually shrinks, sadly. So you need a rare skill, and you need to start a business. And then once you're doing those things, once you're offering your service, which is a rare service, or once you're working on your business, you need to start building assets. That could be a ton of investments, or it could just be the business itself, which is itself an asset because it makes money. Will he look at someone else already? Jesus. There we go. You need to be building assets. I've read so many books on finance, and they all said the same thing in a different way. Every single one of them concluded the same exact way. You will always be poor if you do not build assets. You'll always be poor. You will, no matter what, you'll be at that bottom of the hierarchy. And the people who get wealthy in society are asset builders. They don't think in terms of money and dollar bills. They think in terms of the assets that they own. And so ownership is so important. So your own dad doesn't tell you this. That's what's sad. My dad didn't even tell me this. My dad, he worked on a small business. I was lucky enough that he worked on a small business, and I learned a lot from him. I learned more from him than I did from college or high school. I'm college educated. I actually, before I went for my 4-year degree, some of you may not know this, I went for an associate's degree. So I actually have an associate's degree from the community college, an associate's of arts. And then I have my 4-year degree, which is a bachelor's of science. I'm pretty well educated. And I didn't learn anything. I learned so much garbage when you think about the amount of debt I went into to learn all this shit. And then I went into YouTube. I've got this little card store going. And what's crazy about it all is me getting onto YouTube was more about already my natural capacity for speaking well and for having conversation. But also for teaching. My dad was always good at teaching. I happen to also be good at teaching. I didn't go to school to learn how to teach. I just already kind of knew how to do it. It was just kind of already built in. You know what I mean? It was just like a built-in talent. Nobody taught me it. I didn't take any teaching classes. I just kind of knew what I wanted my educational videos to feel like. I just had like an intuitive sense for it. Kind of like a musical artist. Could you imagine a musical artist today going to college to make the next single big hit in America? No way, man. You're just either good at it or you're not. It's so stupid. Yeah, here, go $60,000 into debt making some guy who runs the school rich so that you can learn how to make America's next top hit. That's not how it works. Jimi Hendrix didn't go to college to learn to play the guitar. He had a natural passion and skill for the guitar. Just think about it, guys. It's so stupid. Well, anyways, so I ended up learning more from my father's home business than I did from all of this college education that I took. I learned more from him just actually running a business with him. It was a small business, but you learned a lot very quickly, very rapidly. And it turns out many of the things you learn in school, unless they're highly technical in nature, if they're not highly technical, if it's a soft skill like business, if it's a soft skill like social studies, it's garbage, and you're paying exorbitant amounts of money to learn it. Or you're making society pay exorbitant amounts of money to teach you it for no reason. You're just handing money over to the administration of the school and the teachers. You're just handing them money for a garbage skill, like history or psychology. You don't need to do those things. You just open a stupid book and read it. You don't need to be tested on it. Like, if you don't understand it, then you don't care about it. And then if you don't care about it, why are you learning it? If you do care about it, you'll remember it. Just like a video game. Nobody pays you to get good at the video game. You do it all on your own. You don't pay anyone to get good at a video game. Imagine going to school to learn how to play Monster Hunter and like paying $4,000 to get good at Monster Hunter. That'd be insane. That would be crazy. You willingly learn it because you love it. That's how real education works. You willingly learn it because you love it. And that's how YouTube has been for me. It's been a labor of love, I guess you could say. And it's wild to think the vast amount of wealth I gave up to learn a bunch of garbage, unnecessary information. Oh, darn. Garbage, unnecessary information at school. I'm investing in Pokemans. Brecky's picky nose. Pokemon. Teacher, he's Pokey Rich. Teachers, write that you thought about this pointless video. Your words have given me a lot to think about. Thank you. Is middle class that bad? Complacency. Associate's degree are good for wiping your butt. That's right. Hey, on the question about the middle class, I mean, I think the middle class isn't that bad. But if you want to leave wealth for your children, which I would like to do that, you got to be thinking about building assets, and then your children inherit that asset. Actually, if you think about any first world society, we live in luxury while people in other countries suffer. They don't even have nice cars and nice homes and air conditioning. They don't have any of that shit. What's the difference between them and you and I? Some old guy left this all behind for us. We inherited it. That's what they mean when they say privilege. We inherited it. And it's your job to leave a bunch of stuff behind. You have to pass it forward for the next generation. And that's why asset development is so important. But nobody teaches you it. Very few people will tell you that it's probably the most important thing you will ever do in your whole life. The only other thing that is quite as important is having babies, which nobody does that either. Nobody has babies anymore. Those two guys that carded should have paid the $4K. That's they should have to pay $4,000 for a Monster Hunter World class. Catherine's fighting this guy again. Let's see if we can help. I'm 28 and I just finished my master's degree in aircraft engineering. I studied 9 years in university. Well, Ahyeb, you'll probably do all right because I think that STEM is still a really solid place to be investing your money for an education. But then for every guy like you, there's like 6 guys who went to school for, well, apparently girls, not guys. Did you guys know most of the student debt is not held by men, it's held by women? There's a bunch of girls who went to school and they picked up a degree in, psychology or some stupid thing like that doesn't earn you any money because it's too easy to learn. It's not a rare skill. And so, yeah, you're probably fine if you go to school for a technical skill and you're good. If you're getting shit grades, you might want to consider a different job because you're either getting a shit grade because, ta-da, you weren't born that smart, or you just don't like it. That's the other possibility. Maybe you don't actually like what you're learning. Because if you're smart and you're still getting bad grades, maybe you don't like learning about it. If you're passionate about it and you're getting bad grades, you probably keep going. Okay, so definitely passion is very important. But either way, a technical degree is still, I think, a terrific option in school. And there's just a lot of soft skills in school that are just so stupid that you're paying money for. I took a creative writing class. I had these things, they're called electives, and you just have to fill them out. Like you have key courses, you have to take them. And they fill up certain time slots. Oh, hold on, let's see this.
Love your stream. Keep it up.
Thank you very much, Blue. So you have key courses, they take up certain time slots, and then you have electives. You got to fill out a certain number of elective classes for each semester, and you can only really choose the ones that are available for the time slots that are open. So I ended up taking this stupid class called creative writing. Basically, it was me flushing $4,000 down the toilet because the college requires that I flush $4,000 down the toilet, because if I don't do that, how will they become millionaires? It is the biggest, most garbage thing I've ever heard of. There's such a joke. And I think about it, I've realized it. I feel like I've been smart enough to realize what a joke it was. And my concern is there's probably a lot of students who don't realize what a joke it is. How ripped off. I don't even like high school so much anymore. I didn't go, my wife went, I was homeschooled, but it's sort of dawning on me. I didn't go to high school, and I still graduated with an engineering degree. So then why do you guys go to high school? It doesn't make any sense. It almost seemed like in order to graduate with a degree in computer science, all you needed to do was read your stupid books. You never needed high school. My high school education was so stupid as a homeschooler. I just read like some paragraphs, some religious paragraphs, and that was it. And my mom would throw like a math book at you and be like, here, teach yourself this, because she wasn't any good at this. Oh, I didn't realize I would be clawing this guy. I suck. But she didn't teach us anything difficult. She just taught us some religious stuff because she was really religious. And it didn't matter. I still graduated fine with my computer science degree. And I was reading this comment by Elon Musk. He said, "Your ability to finish college is not really representative of whether or not you're a productive, skilled person anymore." And I realized he's so right. School is such you guys are probably in school right now, and you know it. You know it. You know that what you're learning in class is not really that good of a skill, is it? You've got this stupid class you took, and it supposedly is giving you a skill, but you have no clue how it earns money. Well, guess what? You're right. It probably does not earn money. The skill is not actually financially valuable. It just appears to be because you're paying money for it. My wife, she learned all this math with me. We took so many math courses, and now she has a job where she'll occasionally use math. You know how she gets the answer to the math problems? She just uses a calculator. You didn't even need to know it. You just needed to know how a calculator works. But they're going to make you take 20 classes in math, I promise you. It's because they're cashing in, man. You're paying for it. You're going into debt. Your country pays for it. Your country's in debt. You pay for all this garbage education that you don't need. You need a business. And they don't tell you that. That's the craziest part. The most important thing you need is a business. But they make you pay exorbitant amounts for education. And you leave education without a business and without any work experience. And you paid them for that, not the other way around. You do all this homework. It's called work, right? You do all this work for no pay. They should pay you to go to school. What if you went to school and you were doing these math problems and they were paying you? Then all of a sudden the work would make a lot of sense. You'd be like, yeah, I'll do this work, but you have to pay me for it. I'm dead. That's what I get for wearing a suicide mantle. Damn, dude. She does some high damage, man. What is our... Oh, we should have eaten for elemental resist. Our water and thunder resist is still low. I don't know if it would have saved us, actually. That suicide mantle fricked us pretty hard there, but it's absolutely insane. And it's not like the money just goes into the ether. Somebody out there right now is a rich-ass mother fricker. He is rich as F, dude. And he just sends you off to school to learn all this useless shit. The government pays for it. You pay for it, and the government pays for it. So in high school, the government pays for it, which means you paid for it through taxation. And then when you go to college, you directly pay for it. So some guy can sit around being rich as fuck. He's so rich. And you go into an immense amount of debt to learn creative writing for just $4,000. I was only $4,000. Creative writing. You pay $4,000, and that was one of the courses I had to take it because they have a required number of classes you need to take called electives. They say you're not smart and educated until you spend enough money over here. What a joke, dude. And I was young enough and stupid enough to not really understand what a huge ripoff this is. And we all just go, and we're told by the liberals and we're told by everyone, oh, you gotta go, you gotta go, you gotta go. The internet is a thing, guys. And I get it too. This is kind of new, right? It's kind of innovative. The internet wasn't really that big of a deal until smartphones came out. So the internet's still relatively young compared to how old schools are. Schools are old, right? They've been around for a while. Schools have been around for a while, but the internet has not been around for a while. So school, is this traditional thing, but the internet's been around since the smartphone. You all have it now. You don't need to go to school to learn. You've got it all at your fingertips. It's all at your fingertips right now, everything. I downloaded audiobooks when I was at Coca-Cola, and I learned so much, so fast, so deeply. But you pay unbelievable amounts of money to learn this stuff that's free. It's free to learn it. It's already free online. It's free to learn it, but you pay thousands and thousands for a piece of paper that says, yeah, he was tested on creative writing. It's so garbage. So garbage. College is a system that you need to learn how to navigate. My class cost me $1,500 a pop. Once I break 12 hours, I just take advantage of the free classes. Derek says, some hedge fund manager is getting rich on commissions from colleges. Right. Paolo says, can you do a video on Meta's SES build? What's an SES? Nah, I'm just teasing you. Maybe someday. A guy named Morgs dropped out of high school and is doing well. Well, and that's the thing. A lot of the guys who are most successful in life, they realized they didn't need a college degree. They needed to start their business. Think about the Facebook CEO, Zuckerberg. He didn't finish. Think about Bill Gates. He didn't finish. You don't need to spend 4 years of your most productive years of your entire life, your youthful years, the years where you have endless amounts of energy. You don't need to spend those years of your life learning about women's suffrages. You don't need to learn that. You don't need to spend those years of your life taking some sociology class that tells you America's the great evil of the world. You need to be out there working and earning money and working on your assets and trying to figure out, how do I get into the market and solve a problem that's never been solved before and make money and get rich? How do I actually get success? Once you're rich, you can go back and take all the... By the way, guys, you don't have to get educated and cultured when you're 18. You can do that when you're 40. You can go back to school and take sociology when you're 40. Did you know that? You can go back to school and take world history when you're 40 years old. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change your life. You're like, oh wow, some stuff happened. That's real interesting. You can do that when you're 40. When you're 18, you are broke. You desperately need money to start your own family, and you desperately need to start working and using your energy to get money. But they put chains on you and put you in school. And the chains really should be represented by your student debt. And in Europe, they should be represented by your unusual tax rates that you pay, so that you can never become wealthy, but you think that the things in your life are free. They're not. You paid for it. When you're older and you start making good money, you pay for it even worse. There's no way to get wealthy in your countries. It's very difficult to get wealthy in Europe. Ridiculous. And it's all run by people who are older and smarter than you. They know what they're doing. They're not stupid. They've been doing the whole life. This whole setup's a game, man. They know how the game's played. They would never tell you any of the same stuff I would tell you, because if you were aware of it, you would actually be educated. If you were more aware of the way the world works, you would never give them money for that garbage. You'd be like, why the fuck am I giving you $4,000 for creative writing? Explain that to me, college administrator. Why would I ever give you this? This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. I could do this for free online right now. Write a stupid book and have other people judge it. You could do it right now. Why would I pay you for it? Because you're stupid. That's why you'll do it. And I was stupid when I did it. And they know this. You know, it's kind of like the Bible guys on the TVs. They know it.
What books do you recommend?
What books do I recommend? I would probably, if I had to read books again, which I haven't read books in a while, but I do, again, I watch a lot of stuff. If I had to do it all over again, I'd do it exactly the same way. I'd go to something like Pirate Bay or whatever it is, whatever website allows you to steal all the audiobooks because you're poor, and I would look for a top hundreds list for business and finance and psychology, get a whole list going, download it all, get it on my iPhone or whatever it is you got, iPod, and go on a nice long walk and start listening to it. You know what I mean? It's the transfer of actually valuable information from one person to another, and it was completely free. You didn't pay a dollar for it, rather than $4,000 for a completely useless, unrelated creative writing class, which undoubtedly some of you guys are in college right now for a technical program, you know, learning maybe computer science like me, and they're going to make you take something like, I don't know, art history. I had to take a class in art history. Somebody explained to me why I need that for a computer science degree. You didn't. What was really going on is the college needs your money. The college is saying, what do a bunch of stupid kids pay for? Yeah, they'll pay for this if we tell them they have to. Is it really a bad thing that you can't get super rich in Europe? It also means money gets a little redistributed, which means that poor people won't steal your things. I guess, I mean, if you really think that, I guess if you all want to be poor together is probably how I would respond to that. I would say, yeah, it's a very serious problem, because it creates a situation where your smartest, hardest workers actually leave to America and leave to other parts of the world. And most likely this has already happened. So Europe, if you think about it, when people realized America was growing and becoming this powerful, rich nation, I promise you, some of your most clever innovators and workers saw this, and they left Europe, and they took with them all of their innovation and intelligence and everything, their family, their genes, their taxes. They took it all to another country. All this so that you can say, I'm poor just like everyone else. None of us are two and even from each other. You see what I'm saying? So would I say it's a bad thing? I would say it's not just a bad thing. I would call it probably catastrophic. And really, I think the story of Europe, when the more I learn about history, I think it's been a sad thing, because Europe's really been, at the heart of civilization for the whole world, and yet today they're just outclassed by so much so easily. And it's like, what happened? Well, people don't want to be just trapped. People don't want to be trapped in poverty, and they want to be able to start their businesses and succeed and become wealthy, because it turns out it's like playing a video game. Imagine if the government came in and said, you could be the world's best speedrunner, or you could be as good as everyone else at Monster Hunter. That way, none of us feel threatened by your greatness. You see, that's essentially what you've just said with your message. You've just said that. You've said, well, is it so bad that they redistribute wealth? That way, we don't become two and even. It is actually. It's the death of a meritocracy, and it's the death of, in my opinion, real progress, not the fake phony progress that the left espouses. Real progress is when you get a world-class speedrunner in your community who is making contributions to your community rather than to another country's community. So that's real progress, in my opinion, not the fake phony social justice progress that people want because they're all threatened by success. Did I really dodge that? Wow, I did good there. I don't know how it is to live in America, but I have a bad impression of it because of documentaries. It's, the worst part about living in America is the violence, actually. If America didn't have violence and all of the discontent here in America, I don't think it would be so bad. But in America, we do this really stupid thing that I hope Europe doesn't do, but I suspect it does. We have this thing where we kind of teach people to hate their own country and feel guilty for everything. And it's popular and cool to hate your own country in America right now, and it's probably the death of America. Whoa, there we go. We were talking about this last night in the car stream. I was talking about how America has a lot of problems with patriotism, and I feel like if you cannot be proud of your country, you should divorce your country. And if you're not going to divorce your country, the people who do love the country are going to divorce the country. Somebody's going to leave. Or there's going to be a war, one or the other. There will be a war. Which I guess isn't too surprising. America had a war in the past, didn't it? My twin sister dropped out of high school, got married, gave birth to a baby girl, currently learning to be an ER nurse or something. Hope she can handle blood. What? I have a friend that's really good at animation at a company he was trying to get into, won't hire him because he didn't have a college degree, says Bowen. Well, Bowen, what he's supposed to do then is keep applying, and he should have completed projects that he can use to show off, right? So that's really more of a skilled sort of job. And if he is good at animating, he should have some animations to show off, and they're going to see it and go, wow, we don't want to miss out on this talent. Because if they're the kind of company that they can see that he has talent, but they say, oh, sorry, you don't have this useless piece of paper, we can't hire you, then they're not going to be a company that hires an animation genius. They won't. They won't hire the best animators. They would just hire people based on a piece of paper. Most of the computer science companies that I applied for, they actually mentioned you don't have to have a degree in computer science. You just have to prove your skill. And I imagine animating is very similar to that. I'm a manager at a pizza place in Raleigh, North Carolina. Nice, man. I wouldn't mind a Japanese takeover of America. I don't think that will ever happen. University has its place and its uses. Believing a system that provides knowledge is completely bad is blatant ignorance. No. I don't think that it's useless. I think that people are not being given the best advice as young people. So my advice for young people is find out what you're skilled at and passionate about right away, and do not waste your whole life savings on education. Because when you go into debt to learn social studies and history, which is something you can learn for free on YouTube right now, because schools blatantly aren't keeping up with technology, and they're doing this on purpose because they make a lot of money. When they take all of your money as a young person, it sets you back for a long time. I'm suffering from it. My wife's suffering from it. We should be further ahead where we are from now, and we realize The reason we're in so much debt is because we took classes like Shakespeare. And why are the schools still teaching Shakespeare? If people want to learn Shakespeare, they can go rent Shakespeare. God damn it, dude. Like, just go to the library and rent Shakespeare. There is a clear, obvious reason why the colleges have not gotten rid of those classes. Because they're money makers. People go to school for money. Or people teach those things in school for the money. There's a lot of money involved. You got a bunch of useless classes for the kids to learn? Good. Now we can make more money. We'll teach Shakespeare. We'll teach them anything they'll spend $4,000 on. We don't care. And that's a very serious problem because it's stunting the development of American families, and it is wasting so many resources. And you can't be wasting resources and remain a superpower. You can't be wasting resources and live the way you want to live. Have a wealthy life of prosperity. And really, when there's a lot of prosperity, there's a lot of peace. Well, if there's not enough prosperity, there's going to be war eventually. I'm telling him to not use your words as an extreme. I feel like I'm memorizing algorithms and time complexities. I've questioned, am I really have to replace Partbreaker or Slugger for Furious, Raging, Heavy Boga, and Sticky Build? I would go with Slugger if I were you. But you can do Partbreaker if you really want. School is a ripoff, 100% agree. It should be illegal for children to agree to $120,000 of debt, but aren't mature enough to drink or smoke. Right? That's the funniest part. So, like, the Democrats call the student debt a student debt crisis, but they have not proposed getting rid of the system. What they propose is, we'll just pay for it all. So, well, hold on. You're saying students don't make enough money to pay off their education. Then the root of the problem is that the education isn't that valuable to the market. Because it's not like the market sits back and says, you know what? We're not going to pay people who have a college degree. The market's saying your degree is so expensive that it's not worth it. That's what the market's actually saying. But the Democrats don't propose changing what's taught. The Democrats propose paying for it all using taxpayer dollars. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's like they don't understand money, or it's like they intentionally would like to keep people poor. I don't know what it is. I have this theory going on that Democrats like poor people to stay poor because then they vote Democrat. I realized it would make no sense. If the Democrats could make you wealthy today, you would vote, I promise you, you would vote conservative most of the time, because a lot of people will simply vote conservative so that they don't have to pay increasingly larger rates of taxes. Most people are generally satisfied with life. They don't need a ton of social change. You know, they probably do care about it, but they would like, more than anything else, to just not pay an enormous amount of taxes. And so if the Democrats could make you wealthy today, you'd probably turn into a conservative. You'd be done being a Democrat. They wouldn't represent you anymore. So why the hell would the Democrats offer you policies that would actually make you rich, or knowledge that would actually make you rich? They wouldn't. They have no intention of making you guys rich. Then you wouldn't vote for them. They wouldn't tell you, you know what, conservative values make you wealthy real fast. They wouldn't tell you that. They'd tell you, oh, the conservatives are holding you down because they hate you. Oh, the conservatives destroy everything. Oh, conservatives. If you just vote for us, we'll tax them. Stupid, man. Dumb as hell. Feet from the cornstarch. Gee, what are your thoughts on weed, psychedelic mushrooms, and the fact that they're illegal in a lot of places? I think that they should all be legal. There you go. 4chaner says, that's the Democratic strategy. Perpetual problem and then pretend you'll solve said problem. Follow the money, stupid. Follow the money, stupid. Starting back in community college to finish my geology degree, first class I have to take is communications. Doesn't that make sense? You definitely need a communications degree for your communications class for your geology degree. It just doesn't make any sense. Well, it does make sense for one person, the person who gets to accept all of your money. It's all about money in the end, guys. Here, buy this thing that you don't need. Well, I don't need that. Yeah, but you have to buy it. Why do I need to buy it? Because that's the rules. I made them up. I made the rules up that said you had to buy this thing from me. And also, I set the price. Well, I can't afford that. Well, then go ask your government for money. See the setup, guys, is garbage. It's like a monopoly almost. It basically is a monopoly. It's really garbage. It's basically a monopoly, and people aren't complaining about it because they're brainwashed into thinking that you need to have your college education. A technical degree is still pretty valuable. Most college education is not valuable. Lonnie, how's it going, Lonnie? Most college education is all the stuff that you can learn for free right now if you just open the stupid book and read the stupid book. It does seem that the Democratic Party mostly consists of younger people who most likely don't know how the world works. Well, and it's always young people who are idealistic and they've been convinced that they have to raise taxes on the wealthy, but they don't understand that the majority of wealthy people are just old people, and one day you're going to be old. And if you were hardworking and you were an aspirational principled person who really put in a lot of effort and started a business or did anything, you're going to be wealthy. So it's funny, you got all these people who got wealthy, and now the Democrats want to place these staggering taxes on them and then tell you this is good for you because you're young and will pay for your college, but you don't understand. Yeah, college is expensive. It's like 50, 60,000. But you might one day be earning $80,000, $90,000 every year. And if they slap the taxes on that, you're going to pay more in taxes than you did on your student loan over the course of your lifetime because you're going to work for the next 30 years. 30 years, guys. So what would you rather have? One student debt or a lifetime of taxes on your success? And by the time you're old, you won't be as rich as those old people. You'll be poorer than them because you shot yourself in the foot with the taxation. Now, if you want to talk about like Amazon, Jeff Bezos, I get that. I do. That's another story. That guy is insanely wealthy. I think that you could probably tax him to a point where we're still competitive with places like Europe, but you probably don't want to get past that because then you wouldn't be competitive anymore. But you're right. Jeff Bezos is insanely expensive. He's an outlier. The vast majority of wealthy people are just simple business owners. We like business owners. America is a place of entrepreneurship. This is what I was talking about with America versus Europe. You're supposed to say, hey, Europeans, you're smart. Come over here and start a business. And Europe's supposed to compete and say, no, 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 no. Stay here, please. We need you. You're pillars of the community. We need you. We need you to make jobs and innovate and invent new products and serve the market. Create something new in the market that's never been there before. But the young people have just been hijacked, usually by the very education that they're overpaying for. Grievance education that teaches you to be angry and unhappy and hate your own country. You've been taught that the only solution is to tax yourself. Tax yourself. Problem solved. Crazy, man. Really crazy stuff. I don't get it. Kreppen says social networking is probably the most valuable thing about college. I'm not going to disagree with that. I think that's actually a fair point. I think that college does introduce you to a lot of people. I would also say it's probably not that necessary. It's possible probably to overvalue social networking, especially with the cost of college education these days. Do you think minimum wage is too high? That's a tough one. I think that some people believe that if you simply raise the minimum wage, that this will solve poverty. And I do not think that it necessarily solves poverty. I think that it will have other unintended consequences. For example, the cost of goods will definitely move up, and certain people who would have been eligible for a job in the past will no longer be eligible because they're not productive enough. I think that money, real wealth, only comes when you invent a good or product. That's the only source of wealth. When you simply artificially raise the pay rate because the government said you have to raise this, it changes the value of everything. But unless the worker is working that much harder, then you've basically become less valuable to the business, and the business will see you that way and treat you that way. And they're more likely to replace you with robots or fire you or give you less hours or whatever it is they're going to do. So minimum wage is a real interesting thing because I do believe in collective bartering. Unions, I'm not a big fan of unions, but I do believe that they serve a purpose. So I do believe in collective bartering. But do I believe in the government stepping into the market and saying, you have to pay this much? I don't know. It's tough. I think it depends on how severe of an increase you want, because it's like if it's a few dollars, the market could probably absorb that somehow. But if you're like asking for your pay to be doubled because you think that flipping burgers at McDonald's is a valuable skill to society, you're just delusional. It's not a valuable skill. And at the same time, there's a complicated subject going on where increasingly good paying jobs are being outsourced to machines or to basically to slaves in a third world country. So it's always a very tough subject. The most important thing I'd say is people in a minimum wage job should not rely on a minimum wage job to pay you a life's wage. You should use that as a way to get work experience and to learn a skill that is actually rare to society, a skill that is actually uncommon and useful, and then to move into a better job. And by the time you've reached that job, you should be a little bit older and ready to start a family. But what the reality is, you get a lot of people who go into like fast food and that's it for them. They're just going to work fast food for the rest of their life. And what do you do with those people? Tell them to get a better job? They're like, nah, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to vote for you to give me more money. So it's a definitely complicated subject, and it would be nice to think that you could just tell McDonald's, well, your CEO gets paid $6 million a year. Why doesn't he just give up some of that? It's a little more complicated than that, because his $6 million is a drop in the bucket compared to the amount of money you would need to raise the minimum wage of the bazillion workers who work for minimum wage at McDonald's. So even if you took all $6 million of his away, it wouldn't really be enough to raise the amount of money they earn by very much. I don't even know if it'd be enough to raise the minimum wage by $1. So it's a complicated thing. It's definitely a complicated thing, and simply raising the minimum wage, I don't think necessarily is a lasting solution or an effective solution. There's a whole economy that exists that creates part of the problem. Like, so if you're going to work at McDonald's and expect that to be a livable wage, well, why are homes so expensive? Maybe if homes were cheaper, you could just have a cheaper home, problem solved. Maybe if food was cheaper. Why is food so expensive these days? Maybe if college was cheaper. Why the hell is college so expensive? So it's not just about how much, it's not just about your minimum wage, it's about the price of housing in California. How are you supposed to live off of a minimum wage in California when it's so expensive? We'll just raise the minimum wage. Well, how about dropping the price of the homes? And nobody really talks about it that way, because it's more complicated to let the CEO of McDonald's be a boogeyman. He's a boogeyman. Look at how much money he makes. He's evil. You know, and to just point to him as some sort of like corporate greed problem, and as if, you know, oh, if we just tax him more and force him to pay us more, and the, you know, the people who are all of the stockholders will be happy, and they won't mind, and they won't leave to another company. And so it's just, the whole system is very quite complicated. And to suggest, oh, all you have to do is raise the minimum wage, well, that's really clever of you. Why don't you just raise the minimum wage to $100 an hour? Have you considered that? How about $200 an hour? Why don't we just do that? So it's an interesting thing, because people, they have an intuitive sense, I think, of why you can't just raise the minimum wage to $100 an hour. They seem to know that, well, there are economic relationships between the minimum wage laws and the cost of goods. There are limits to the amount you can raise it without having an actual dense impact on how the company operates. But it's almost like they're not willing to admit this until you force them into a question like that. Why don't you just raise it to 100 then? Well, no, we're just asking for $20 an hour or something like that, right? It's like, well, why is $20 an hour appropriate? Shouldn't the business decide? And if the business can't get you to voluntarily work there, well, then maybe the business should have to just raise it until people will voluntarily work there. No, we need the government to step in and make decisions for the business. When has the government been good at running McDonald's ever? The government. What is our debt right now? What is America's actual debt? It must be insane at this point. Actually, you can look it up, couldn't you? America's national debt is currently at $25 trillion. So you're telling me the government that can't balance the budget, and the government that takes us into constant trillions of dollars of debt, and you, a voter who works at McDonald's, who wants to have more money, but doesn't want to get a different job, you're going to make the brilliant decision of how much the minimum wage should be for McDonald's, the actual company, and this is going to be the smart, best economic decision for McDonald's. It's kind of a joke. If you want to get paid more money, you better be worth that money. And then you tell McDonald's, hey, I know how much I'm worth, and you know how much I'm worth. If you don't increase my pay, I'm out of here. And then they say, oh shit, he's leaving? We can't have him leave. He's worth so much. And then what they do is they offer you more money. That's how it's supposed to work, by the way. But there's just these people who don't really understand that, or they don't really want to improve their productivity or have a rarer skill than they have now. And then they're like, well, I want more money and I can't have it. How can I get it? Well, I know. I'll just tell the government to force McDonald's to give it to me. And so that's how I feel about minimum wage laws. They're an interesting thing. They're, in a way, they're kind of like collective bargaining, but they're bartering, but they're kind of like, is it collective bartering or collective bargaining? I think it's collective bargaining. It's more like they're doing it at the government level rather than at the union level. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. I feel like, again, I feel like McDonald's could probably be forced to pay a little more. But I think that really all that does is accelerate McDonald's need to replace all workers with machines. And a bigger question, if you want to talk about it from an abstract point of view, or not an abstract point of view, but maybe like a futuristic point of view, is how long before everyone starts demanding universal basic income? Because places like McDonald's and Walmart do everything they can to get rid of humans, because all humans do is make mistakes, demand more money, try to get you to vote for more money, and not really increase their productivity. Whereas you've got these computers which will do everything for you. They'll scratch your balls for you and make you pancakes. And they don't complain about UBI, and they don't complain about higher wages or anything. They don't even need healthcare, right? They don't even need healthcare. So it's a dangerous subject, really, for the people who are demanding higher minimum wage. It's like, how soon do you want McDonald's to go away? And how confident are you that you're going to get UBI when it does? You know what I mean? How fast do you want the government to let you know that, sorry, UBI is not happening? You know what I mean? McDonald's $15 value menu and Big Mac 33. Well, I don't think you would see that dramatic of a change. But again, so if you're somebody listening to the show, if you're listening to the Let's Chat, and you think that minimum wage is definitely good and it definitely works, try to explain why they shouldn't just demand $100 minimum wage. And then you realize, well, they really can only demand as much as their labor is worth. And how would you know what their labor is worth? You don't actually run McDonald's. McDonald's runs McDonald's. They know. They know what their competitors offer, and they know what the value of making a hamburger and wrapping it up in a piece of paper is. You know, they know what it's worth per whatever month. You're probably getting paid, I don't know what McDonald's pays right now. Probably in Missouri, if I had to guess, probably like $700 a month, something like that. TGC, thoughts about tax loopholes that billionaires take advantage of? I think that we could close the loopholes, and this would effectively increase the amount of money that the billionaires pay. But the problem with it is people call the loopholes as if the billionaires are cheating, and this is a narrative that you've been given by, once again, the Democrats. The Democrats have given you this narrative because they need you to believe that the whole system is rigged and it's unfair, and oh, the billionaires are these rich, evil corporate monsters who just cheat, and you're just a wholly normal person who isn't greedy at all and wouldn't take advantage of these so-called loopholes yourself. What it turns out, I've done a little research on this subject. It turns out they're not really loopholes. It's more like the government has a tax code that incentivizes certain expenditures. So, let me give you a perfect example, actually. For Pokemon cards, if your Pokemon cards appreciate over time, you're supposed to pay, it's something like 28% taxes on the value of the appreciation. So if you have a $500 Pokemon card, and it goes up by $100 over the course of a year, the government expects you to pay $28 in taxes for that, okay? And they do that because they don't want you to put too much money in Pokemon cards. They don't actually think that Pokemon cards are valuable to the economy of the country. They think Pokemon cards aren't innovation, right? And they're right. And they create laws like that so that wealthy people don't just buy a bunch of Pokemon cards and hide their money in Pokemon cards. What they want is for wealthy people to take their money and put it into businesses and to create new jobs and create stability where they can expect people in the economy to have jobs. So the government creates these tax incentives, and people who you think are abusing a loophole, they're not really abusing a quote loophole. What they're doing is they're using the actual tax code correctly to do what the government wants them to do with their money. Things that the government deems important to the country, like developing certain aspects of their business. That's why Jeff Bezos paid no money, not Jeff Bezos, that's why Amazon, see, Jeff Bezos does pay taxes. That's why Amazon paid no money in taxes, because it used the actual codes in the taxes for things that the government is incentivizing businesses to go after. It used those tax codes to grow its company and provide more jobs. And people act like that's a terrible thing. Oh man, it sucks that Amazon pays a bunch of people to work. Okay, well, what jobs did Amazon get rid of? Are you saying Amazon deleted a bunch of jobs? And that's often the counter argument. People will say like, oh, well, Walmart got rid of all the mom and pop shops. Well, yeah, that's because people don't want to shop at mom and pop shops. They want to shop at Walmart. It does it better. And that's the whole point of a capitalist economy. A free market economy is all about doing something for the market that it wants. That's the whole point. We want cheaper products, and we want them faster, and we want them easier. So that's the whole goal of it. It doesn't really matter. You know, if somebody else is your mom and your pop, yeah, you feel social justice. You feel guilty for them. Oh, shit. We're still alive. Look at that. Damage taken reduced. I was in the middle of an attack, so I knew I was in trouble. Damage taken reduced. That's Divine Blessing Secret saving me there. I was in the middle of an attack. I knew I wasn't going to have time to sheath and to... sheath and dive evade. So good old Divine Blessing there, huh? Well, anyways, so where was I going? Anyways, the government has tax codes that incentivize you to spend your money a certain way, and if you do so, the government will not tax you as badly because they're glad that you're spending your money the way that the government wants you to. They deem it important for businesses to grow and to create new jobs. So they say, here's your tax write-off if you're growing, right? If you're investing in your own company, here's your tax write-off. And then people see this and they get so mad at it because, oh, those rich billionaires, they just get, the winners keep winning and the losers lose. And to a degree, it's true. Jeff Bezos is in a position to make decisions with his billions of dollars and his billion-dollar company. He's in a position to take advantage of these tax codes because he's the owner of a massive company. But it's your job to also be the owner of a company so that you can also take advantage of these codes. And if you're mad at the government incentivizing certain expenditures from businesses that would render a tax credit, well then tell your government not to give Jeff Bezos a tax break when he spends his money a certain way. Tell him no, punish him for that. You know what I mean? And then what Jeff Bezos will likely do is, instead of investing his money in an American company, he'll invest his money in a Chinese company. He'll say, you know what? America's so mad that I'm doing well, and they don't like it, and they want to enforce the social justice on me, and the bourgeoisie versus the proletariat and all that shit. He's like, fine, I'll go put this money in China. Do you see the problem, guys? So it's not like you can just grab billionaires and tell them, oh, this is how you need to be. You're too rich. You're too successful. You can't have all that money. Okay, and they say, fine. The money's going into the Cayman Islands, where you can't touch it, government. The money's going into China, where you can't touch it, government. So this is all part of the game, and you guys really have to be more, in my opinion, more educated on the issues. Now, are there cases where billionaires probably used tax loopholes that are certainly questionable, and maybe they had friends in the government that created the tax loopholes? Yeah, there might be a case of that. Maybe something really advanced, like let's say your brother owns a church charity thing, and you take all your millions of dollars and donate it to your brother, and he's just keeping the money in the family secretly because he's your brother. He's this powerful politician, or he's this powerful whatever he is. You're just giving money to him charitably, but really the money's just staying in the family and it's becoming tax sheltered. Well, that would be like a conflict of interest. Do those exist? They actually do exist. And the solution is to be aware of them and to fight them, and if somebody is abusing them, to get rid of them and to punish those people. But do you want the government to change the tax code to just be a flat tax? The funny thing is, if it was a flat tax, then you would actually see the millionaires and the billionaires pay considerably less taxes. Do you want to just simply raise taxes on the wealthy? You can find ways to simply raise taxes on the wealthy. But the question is, how high should those taxes be? And the answer to that question is that it probably should not be much higher than, it probably shouldn't be higher at all, actually, than what they pay, let's say, in Europe or Australia or Canada or one of the other places that America competes directly with for holding on to highly productive immigrants, right? Because this is the thing, we're living in a flatter world than we've ever lived in. You can move all over the world and live in a beautiful home next to the, next to the ocean, next to a lake, in a millionaire, billionaire house, and have a government behind you that says, yeah, we love you, keep working, right? Keep paying taxes, please. You can move all over the world for this now. You can move to Singapore, there's all these places. And the idea that you're so mad at the rich for not, they need to pay more tax. You've been totally convinced that the wealthy are the source of all your problems, and the government is the source of all your problems. And only the government can solve your problems. And if only we could raise the taxes on the rich. How much do you want to raise it? Do you want to raise it to like 99%? If you were a billionaire, why would you stay? It just wouldn't make sense. So unless you have like some special relationship with the physical land of America and you're like, oh, I'm such a patriot, I couldn't possibly leave. I'd much rather pay 99% of my wealth to Bernie Sanders so that he can redistribute it based on skin color, right? Something like that, right? So if you're a billionaire, you'd be looking at Canada, you'd be looking at Australia, you'd be looking at Germany, you'd be looking at London, you'd be looking at all these beautiful places you can move to, Singapore, and you'd be going, why am I staying here? These guys don't like me, right? The poor hate me. They've all been convinced I'm evil. And they want to tax the shit out of me, and I actually get a better deal over there. So they would just move over there and continue their global operation, as is Amazon, as is Google, as is Facebook. They will continue their global operation, and they won't pay $1 of taxes. You will go from harvesting a certain amount of taxes from a billionaire, which is probably such a monumental more amount of taxes than you'll pay in your entire life, to taxing exactly $0 out of him. You will get $0 out of that billionaire for the rest of his life now. It goes to an entirely different country, a country which, by the way, competes with you to obtain that person, to obtain that worker. That country competes with us, and you don't think of it that way because Bernie Sanders doesn't tell you this stuff. We're competing with Canada and with Australia to obtain the best, smartest workers. And when our taxes jump above their taxes, they take a hard look at this country and go, why am I here then? People already hate me. I'm well hated because I'm successful, because I provide jobs. I'm a global company, which is, by the way, part of why he's so wealthy. And I could just move over there. It wouldn't even be hard. It's not hard, guys. You want to know who has the easiest time moving of all human beings? The rich. Nobody has an easier time moving than the rich because they have the money to move. You and I don't have the money to move. The billionaires have more money than anyone else. It is easier for them to move than anyone. If some billionaire came knocking on Canada's door and said, can I move to Canada? Canada would be like, get the fuck in here, please. Please, and let us tax you a little bit, okay? And he'd be like, all right, but just don't tax me as much as the Americans. And Canada would say, yeah, whatever you want, man. Whatever you want. We need more billionaires. Being billionaires and soaking up all that money from around the world and bringing it right here to our country. But people in America aren't taught these ideas. You're taught all your problems come from the wealthy. All the top 1% of the 1% own the 90% of the 80% of all the money in America. You're taught that all day long, and you're full of angerness and grievance and resentment and bitterness and, oh, fuck America. And you're just taught this all day, and you wake up angry and, oh, I work at McDonald's because of Bernie Sanders told me that. Jeff Bezos did it to me. Meanwhile, you live in the country that affords you the best opportunity to start a business. It is such a business-friendly country. And you just wake up and you go back to McDonald's and you're mad and you're like, man, if I could just vote to make everyone else give me their money, that would solve all the problems. The economy would be solved. Racism would go away. No, you're just brainwashed. You're dumb. Which is probably at the heart of the problem. Is why you stuck at McDonald's in the first place. You know what I mean? But you're not taught those things at school even. That's the craziest part. You go to high school to learn about, the powerhouse of the cell, You go to high school to learn that, oh, Christopher Columbus, oh, we hate him now. He found America for the first time for the West, but also he's evil. You know, you go there to learn how oppressed you are or whatever, and you get a girl pregnant and you do drugs for the first time, apparently. It's so sad. I think that the education system in America is a failure. Actually, it's probably a breeding ground to create a almost like a slave class. Like, here, let us teach you how to think. Let us make sure you don't actually get wealthy because you don't learn anything about how important it is to build assets and be an asset owner and how to be smart. You learn stupid stuff, but you don't actually learn how to be smart. It's crazy. It's really shocking to me, and I feel like this is the real outcome of the actual intelligent bourgeoisie working in the most advanced ways in society. They would never want you to get smart in school. Would the bourgeoisie want you to get smart in school? Hell no, man. Because then you wouldn't be a good little voter. You wouldn't be a good little employee for them. A good little taxpayer. Good little... I'll be king of the poor. You know what I mean? That's Joe Biden right now. I'll be king of the Black Lives Matter movement. Some old white guy, right? Isn't that what they hate? They hate old white guys. He'll be some old king of the Black Lives Matter movement. Disgusting. You're so clever to vote for him. He's got you convinced of that. That's the wildest part. He has you convinced that you're clever to vote for him. If you vote for me, all racism will be solved. Yeah, right. Okay. I'll be king of the Black Lives Matter movement. Thanks, Uncle Joe. And if you vote for me, we'll just tax all the rich. Problem solved. Eat the rich. Problem solved. In 2020, the rich definitely won't just pack their bags and move to Vienna. The rich definitely won't just pack their bags and move to Ireland. You're stupid, man. It's not the same as it used to be. There probably was a time where you couldn't move around the world as a rich person. It is easier now than ever to leave. You just leave. I'm Joe Biden, and I hate America too. Having a world free from racism is an impossible dream. Public school system equals garbage in, garbage out. It's pretty good, all things considered. I never felt like I wanted to live in another country, so that's an indicator that it's pretty good to live here. Go for private or homeschooling. Well, that's what my wife and I talk about these days. We're thinking we will homeschool, maybe we'll homeschool our kids, or we'll send a kid to a private school that we approve of. But if we homeschool the kid, we're just going to go straight to teaching them how to run a business. Like, if you want to learn about the powerhouse of the cell, you can open up a goddamn book and learn about the powerhouse of the cell. If you want to be rich, you need to start working on your business. There's two separate ideas. You want to be cultured, open up Shakespeare and read it, stupid. If you want to be rich, don't spend $4,000 so that some fat baldy with his specky glasses teaches you about Shakespeare for $4,000. Then you'll be poor, and he'll be rich. The Gameconomist was POTUS in his past life. What? Alright, guys, we hit the 2-hour mark. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here. No more rants. See you later. Hey, mister. You got any more of those paid for votes, mister? Alright, guys, I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.